Football season is here. I know I've said that quite a few times, but I really mean it this time because we have a matchup to discuss tonight. The Ravens take on the Eagles, and to preview the matchup, we have with us Symone with the Sports. Let's get it. Let's talk Ravens with Yolanda. Today's video, we are going to discuss each player that makes up the offensive line. Good evening, Ravens flock. Good evening, everyone. Welcome into the show. I'm so excited because we are back finally. We're going to get some football. There's some action going on tonight, but we are here to talk about the Baltimore Ravens matching up with the Eagles. So we have a battle of the birds, and who better to talk about her team than Symone with the Sports. Welcome into the show, Symone. How are you? Uh-oh, let's see here. How are you? Now you're off mute. Uh-oh, it's still muted. Okay, there we go. Oh, good. I'm glad you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Would you tell everyone a little bit about you and how you fell in love with the Eagles and what you do here on these YouTube streets?
So yes, I'm an Eagles content creator on YouTube, TikTok. I tweet a lot about the Eagles as well. I've always been an Eagles fan, grew up an Eagles fan. My family is from DC. So a lot of my family members just NFC East fans, Washington, a lot of Dallas, a lot of Eagles fans. So growing up, I just was attracted to the Eagles, and it's been full steam ahead in my fandom.
Awesome. That is so great. And I love to see women who love the sport and not only love the sport come on camera and talk about the sport. And I saw Symone is out here interviewing Jalen Hurts. Symone is out here interviewing the players from the Eagles. So we'll like to, hear at some point later on in the show, your perspective of, how interviewing players goes for you and what you think about it. But as customary over here, I like to start the show by giving a warm welcome to everyone who's already joined us in the chat. First, we have with us tonight Brandon Bazel. Yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Brandon. And we also have with us Lady Laura Baltimore. Good evening. Hope all is well. Yes, she's already telling you, let's go Ravens. Look, I'm excited about this season. I know Symone is too. Let's talk about how your team is taking shape. So in the off season, you lost a few players to retirement. Big name, obviously your center, Jason Kelce. He was, a bedrock for you guys. And you have defensive tackle Fletcher Cox, and you also have Devontae Parker. So in terms of center, who do you feel, or how do you feel about Cameron? I think Jurgens, based on what you've seen so far in training camp.
I'm confident in Cam. So Jason Kelce, he's been likely to retire for like 3 seasons now. So we drafted Cam Jurgens 2 seasons ago to be Jason Kelce's replacement because we knew at any given moment, Jason Kelce could be retiring. And Jason Kelce actually scouted Cam Jurgens and picked him as his replacement. So he is the perfect guy for the job. He's been with the Eagles for going on his 3rd season now. So he's been learning from Jeff Stoutland. He's been learning from Jason Kelce. He's been learning from everyone on this offensive line, and not just learning from them, but getting reps from them, getting reps beside them as well, because he's been playing right guard while he was waiting for Jason Kelce to move on. So there couldn't be any better guy to replace Jason Kelce than a guy that Jason Kelce picked to replace him. So right now I have no reason to doubt Cam Jurgens. He played center in college. He's like I said, learn from Jason Kelce while he's been here. And obviously Jason Kelce is a NFL Hall of Famer. Like Cam Jurgens isn't going to come in week 1, week 2, season 1, season 2, and be Jason Kelce. But he definitely has what it takes to fill those shoes.
That's good. That's good to hear. Because when you think about someone who's been a solid force for your organization for a long time, like for us as Ravens, first person that comes to mind is our kicker, you know? So, when that day comes, it's going to be a really sad day, for us because we have the best kicker in the league. So, I can understand that, but huge loss for you all in Jason Kelsey, but from you, you're in good hands. So who's stepping up for Fletcher Cox and
So
Devontae Parker?
same situation with Fletcher Cox, because Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, they were both playing for a very long time. Like, they both played well in their 30s. So same with Fletcher Cox. It was about 3 seasons where Fletcher Cox contemplated retirement before he actually finally retired. So it wasn't a shock when Fletcher retired. Last season was a season where we thought he was going to retire as well. So same with Fletcher Cox. We drafted 2 guys in the last 2 drafts to replace him as well, in Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. And it was like amazing that Fletcher Cox was able to play the way he was last season, because with his age and everything, we didn't expect to be getting that much out of him last season. But Jalen Carter had an amazing rookie season. Jordan Davis as well. Those 2 guys are ready to step up. We have another guy who's been flying on the radar for a few seasons now, named Milton Williams, who we drafted a few seasons ago, a defensive tackle. So we have a lot of good competition at defensive tackle. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, both of those guys are ready. I don't think there could be anybody better to replace Fletcher Cox than Jalen Carter, with just all the potential he has. Like, Jalen Carter was somebody who was projected to be a #1 pick before he had his accident at Georgia, and we were able to get him at number 10. So, like, he has all the potential, and we've seen so much from him already, even just in his rookie season and throughout training camp. That just goes to show, like, what a dog he's going to be. And Fletcher Cox has been amazing. Fletcher Cox is Eagles Hall of Famer, obviously. But these last few seasons, Fletcher Cox has been older. So, like, when people are saying, oh, Fletcher Cox retired, they're thinking about prime Fletcher Cox Eagles, which was some years ago. So we needed to bring in fresh legs. It needed to be a fresh turnaround on the defensive line regardless. So it's sad to see him go, but it was also time.
Yeah, understood. We drafted our center, who I just believe is going to be with us for a very long time, Tyler Linderbaum, a couple of years ago. And I understand when you lose a center or someone like a D tackle, and you're trying to figure out who's going to be that person who steps up and who can actually contribute instantly. Not, oh, they're a work in progress. We see them, especially when you're talking about the nucleus, right, of the O-line. That center position is crucial. So we'll see what Cam has to, see if he's ready to fill the shoes. And, those are big shoes to fill, so, and same thing, Fletcher Cox, like you said, hasn't been Fletcher Cox of what we all know him and, have known him to be over the years. But even still in the last couple of years, he still was productive for you. A few other big names that you guys lost this offseason was, Hassan Riddick. And I've been hearing that he's holding out over there in the Jets, not really signing his contract, but saying, hey, I want a contract. I'm not willing to take what you all are offering. But it's interesting because he said, hey, I'm joining the Jets because I'm not really focused on the contract. But here we are. So how do you all feel about losing Hassan Riddick, and who steps up in his place?
Well, with Hassan, the New York Jets, the reason why we traded Hassan Reddick is because we didn't want to pay him. So I don't know why the New York Jets would trade for a guy who is asking for a contract and not have a contract lined up for him. So the Jets really had me confused with that move. But Hassan Reddick, love Hassan Reddick. Like, that's somebody who obviously I wish, in the grand scheme of things, could still be an Eagle. But I understand Hassan Reddick is going to be 30 plus years old. He wanted 20 million plus a year on a longer term deal, and we just can't do that for a 30 plus year old pass rusher. Now, again, in a perfect world, would love for Hassan had stayed with the contract he was under. But like I said, with Fletcher Cox, we have to get younger. We need to get younger across the defensive line. And that's what we have going on right now, a youth movement, just not even just on our defensive line, but defense as a whole. Like it's the overall youth movement in the secondary, at the linebacker position, and everywhere. So we just could not pay a 30+ year. We could not pay him all that money. But we got Bryce Huff from the Jets. Bryce Huff, I feel like, can just already come right in and duplicate that production, if not more. The Jets defense was very deep last season. So the only concern, if there has to be one, is that Bryce Huff didn't play as many snaps as Hassan Reddick did. So that's the only question. Can he duplicate, that amount of snaps, that amount of reps? But he said, I didn't have limited snaps because I couldn't handle it. I had limited snaps because we were so deep, and a lot of guys had to eat. So Bryce Huff, I mean, like I said, love Hassan Reddick, but I feel like we're going to be fine with Bryce Huff. We still have Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith. We got a lot of dogs, I feel like, on the defensive line. That's really not the biggest question for me. But like I said, love Hassan. Just love his attitude, his relentlessness, just a little like spiciness he brought to the field. But he wanted that check and we couldn't cut it.
I understand, because the Ravens lost several key players this offseason. And on the defense, we lost Patrick Queen, who, in my opinion, between he and Roquan Smith, arguably the best linebacker duo in the league, right up there, certainly, 1 and 2, if you please, with 49ers, with Greenlaw and Warner. But we have to understand that, like you said, we got younger. We're getting younger. So we're bringing in these younger guys, and this is now time for Trenton Simpson to step up. He was with us last year, and we'll see now that he's going to have a much bigger role. We also saw flashes from, Tavius Robinson. These are younger guys from last year who were, coming back, and now it's like, okay, well, now is your time. You're going to have to step up. So we're looking at the same type of, picture here where I would have loved to have kept Patrick Queen, but we couldn't do it. Same thing with like Jadeveon Clowney. We lost one of our premier edge rushers, and he went back home to Carolina, and now we are putting it in the capable hands of Odafe Owe, as well as we're going to ask David Ojabo step up. Big thing with Ojabo is he hasn't been healthy. So it's one of those things where time will tell, but we'll see. Another one that we lost was Kevin Zeitler for us. Now I'm still scratching my head about that. O-lineman. I'm not sure why we lost him, why we let him go. I think, right guard, especially because it doesn't appear that we had a replacement ready. Just unlike what you just said about the Eagles, you knew Jason Kelce was planning to retire, and it could have been any time. It could have been last year, the year before, and you had a plan saying, okay, at any minute, Jason can say, I'm going to hang up the cleats. I'm done. You had a plan in place. That's one thing that I would, have liked to have seen on the O-line, especially if we knew that we were going to, not bring back Kevin Zeitler. But we'll see who steps up for us on the O-line. And, that it's interesting because, I have my notes here. So if you see me, I'm just fumbling through my notes. But it's interesting because you picked up some big names this offseason. Obviously, we're going to start with the major one, the big one, right? We're going to talk about Saquon Barkley paired up with Jalen Hurts. What have you seen so far this offseason between the two of them?
Definitely just instant chemistry. Saquon Barkley is from the area, so for him, this is like coming home. I'm sorry, I just saw a tweet that was like, I guess the Dallas is at training camp, and Jerry Jones said, I don't have any urgency to get CeeDee Lamb's contract done. And then CeeDee Lamb quoted it and said, LOL. They have so much drama.
I would have loved to have brought CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Ayuk onto the Ravens squad this year. That would have been great. But yeah.
That would be crazy.
Ooh, very crazy.
I would love that for y'all because I would just love to get him out of Dallas.
I would too. I just don't think they're doing right by him over there in Dallas. And it's clear they don't want him. But, if they don't want him, I have a good friend of mine who's a diehard Cowboys fan. I was like, and I told him this months ago, 2 months ago, I said, listen, if you guys don't want CeeDee Lamb and you're not ready to pay him, or you don't want to pay him, or you're not willing, that's okay. No problem. No hard feelings. Send him over our way. We'll take good care of him. So, how has the chemistry been between Saquon and Jalen, from what you've
It's
observed?
been great chemistry. They wanted to say we tampered and whatnot, but we beat the case, so we can joke about it now. It
Okay.
seems like they've been, linked up, and because as soon as he signed here, they were already working out together. Um, outside of OTAs and outside of the mini camp and training camp, they were already working out together. It's just so, even like in our mic'd up moments, just seeing them interact, it just seems like they already have a rapport and they just have chemistry together. Obviously, having Saquon Barkley is going to take a lot off of Jalen Hurts. Just having a strong running back that can block and can do all different kinds of things and be a red zone threat, be a third down threat. Like everyone want to talk about, oh, Jalen Hurts, so he a touchdown merchant. He taking touchdowns away from DeAndre Swift or boom boom, but DeAndre Swift don't have that power to move that power like Jalen did. Like Jalen was our biggest red zone threat, our biggest short yardage threat because of the power and strength that he has. So now that we have Saquon Barkley, who can take that load and take that pressure off of Jalen, it's just going to be so big for us to have.
I feel like we're mirroring each other. Every response that you give, I'm going to, so far, I'm saying the same thing. We feel the same way over in the Ravens camp. We did not have that, that running back, that solid running back that can, like you said, that's who is awesome at being able to move the ball down the field, that chain mover, but also is a great blocker too. I just didn't feel like we had that. Now we do. We've got Derrick Henry. And so when you have a mobile quarterback who is able to escape the pocket, you have a mobile quarterback who is able to slice a defense in so many different ways. Now you pair that with, in the backfield, a Derrick Henry, sky's the limit for the Ravens. And similarly, could be said about the Eagles. You have Jalen Hurts at the helm. Now you bring in Saquon Barkley. It's going to be a tough duo. It's going to be a really tough duo to defend. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these defenses are able, if they're able to come up with some type of magic trick to make it happen. But yeah, I think that was one of your best additions this offseason. So
Yeah, but same. I agree. I feel like for y'all, like it's very similar. Obviously, Jalen and Saquon and Derek and Lamar. I feel like those we got some of the best duos.
yeah, absolutely we do in the league. So I anybody who says otherwise, I'll certainly challenge them to a duel or a debate about that. But um, defensive end, you all picked up Bryce Huff from the Jets. Now he's entering his fourth season. He was really good last year for the Jets. I looked up his stats. He had 10 solo tackles, 5 assists, 10 sacks, and graded overall a 79.7. How's he looking so far?
He's looking really good. Obviously we have a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio, and the one thing that I'm getting from everybody is just the buying into Vic Fangio. And Vic Fangio's biggest mantra is like earning your spot. Like, okay, we paid you this money, you're under this contract, you're presumed starter, but like everybody is having to prove themselves. And everybody seems to be buying in, including Bryce Huff. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Bryce. Like I said, it shouldn't really be a drop off in my opinion from Hassan to Bryce. I think it was a great long term move because again, we flipped. Hassan was 29. Bryce Huff is 25. So this is somebody who is going to be under a 3-year deal for us, a longer term option. Like when we're looking at the longer term and getting younger, I don't think we could have replaced Hassan Reddick with anyone better.
Yeah. Yeah. You also signed, Mustafa and linebacker Devin White. How are they looking so far in training camp?
Devin White is looking great. I know he has a lot of haters. He was bumping heads with the Bugs. They had whatever drama they had going on. But Devin White, we know what Devin White's ceiling is. We know he can be a Pro Bowl talent. He spoke on that. He keeps speaking on that. Like, I know I fell off last year. Like, he's completely transparent. He's completely humble. And I feel like when you're humble and when you're transparent and when you're aware, like, there's nothing but growth you can have. He knows what he has to do to get back into Pro Bowl form. He's spent most of his career being a top linebacker than he has being a mid linebacker. So he knows what he has to do to get back into form, and he knows he fell off last season. He said it himself a million times. I didn't have a good season last season. I know I have to reprove myself. Like, I'm not just going to come in here and be the starting middle linebacker. I'm not just gonna come in here and wear the green dot just because of what I've done in the past. I have to re-earn that. Like he said that a million times. So I think the humbleness is just gonna make him even more hungry. So I'm really excited. He said all the right things and he's looking right in camp. It's just gonna have to obviously come together on the field. But Devin White is one I'm really excited about because the linebacker position has been a weak spot for the Eagles for years now. And I don't know when the last time we had a Pro Bowl linebacker on our team was. So Devin White has an opportunity to come in and turn a position from buns to like fire. So we're all really excited about the linebacker position and the linebacker position. Outside of Devin White, we don't have that much depth at linebacker. We have Devin White. Nakobe Dean is pretty much on bust watch, and he's injury prone. We got Zach Bond from the Saints. Zach Bond has been looking good. The only concern about Zach Bond is he's been a special teamer in the past. He's been looking good at camp, and we're going to see in preseason, like this is the real test. But Vic Fangio moved him to inside linebacker, but traditionally he's been a special teamer. So that's a big question mark right there. We got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. His daddy was obviously fired, but he got to make a name for himself. So outside of Devin White, it's a lot. It's rookies and it's question marks. So really when it comes to the team as a whole, the linebacker position is the biggest question mark. And it has so much potential, but right now all it has is potential.
Yeah. Until it's proven, it's just a question mark. And I would say for me, in my perspective, I think our biggest question mark for the Ravens is O-line. We have, Ronnie Stanley, Pro Bowl Ronnie, before his injury. Since his injury, he's not been the same. We're hoping that this year he can put it all together. He can be fully healthy all season and into the postseason. And if he can, we're all set. Lamar Jackson's blind side is okay. But where the question mark comes in is we have a lot of young talent at these premium positions, right? And so we're entrusting a lot and we're asking a lot out of young players who haven't proven it. They haven't demonstrated that they can do it. I mentioned our center, Tyler Linderbaum, earlier. He's an example of a situation where the Ravens drafted a youngster, immediately put an entire workload on his plate, and he answered the call. Same thing can be said on the opposite side of the ball for us and Kyle Hamilton. We drafted him, and immediately Kyle came in. That's not to say they're not going to make mistakes. Of course they are. They're young. They're rookies. They're going to learn, and they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to be better for it. But when you talk about overall development and coming into their own, these are just two examples of players that have done it. So it's not to say that our rookie Roger Rosengarten can't do it. We just need to see. And it's, so that would be in terms of my question mark. That's what I'm waiting to see. That's what I'm looking for. I want to say hello to a couple of people that I've seen have joined in the chat. I see my mom is here. Hi, Mom. Thank you for being here. We also have my guy, Little Joker. Thank you. Little Joker is a Vikings fan. And one thing that Little Joker said a little while ago, and this is so good. He said he's jealous. We have Hurts and Barkley on one side. You've got Lamar Jackson and Henry on the other. He's like, but hey, they've got Jefferson. That's
all they got over there.
But you know what? And true. But before Justin signed his contract, I was saying, listen, can we make a push? And this is, again, early in the offseason. Can we make a push I was asking for Brandon Ayuk. I was asking for Justin Jefferson. I was asking for T. Higgins. I was just asking for everybody. I said, listen, I'm going to give you Ravens some names. Pick one. Choose who you'd like. We'll be glad to take any of them. We also have with us tonight Coach Evans. Thank you for joining, Coach. I appreciate you being here. We have Tanja Bowman in the house. Tanja, I don't know if I said hello earlier. If I did, I forgot, but I want to make sure I say hi to you. Thank you so much for joining. And going back to someone else that you all picked up this offseason, your quarterback, your backup. How is he looking? How's Pickett?
Shoot, I forget all about Kenny because Kenny honestly is competing for quarterback too. Like we already had a quarterback too before Kenny. So, The major media and everybody just assumed McKinney was coming in. It was quarterback 2. He didn't even earn that spot yet.
Yeah, I don't
So
think it.
Kenny is still working for quarterback 2. We drafted Tanner McKee. Last year we used our last pick on Tanner McKee, a quarterback. And Tanner McKee was looking good last season. And this season, off season, Tanner McKee's been going at it with Kenny. So that's a question mark. Like, who's going to be quarterback 2? Kenny's been looking all right. I mean, he's had some days. You know how the backups do. One day they throwing picks, next day they looking good. But as far as I know, Tanner McKee has been outperforming Kenny Pickett a little bit.
Uh, I can tell you, having Kenny Pickett come over from the AFC North, he's just not it. He's just not
Oh,
it.
no, girl, my mom is a Steelers fan. I already know.
You already know. So he's just not it. But I'm always the one who sides on optimism. You never know how a player can do in a new organization with a new coaching staff, with a new team, with new players. Give them a new environment. You never know if they might shine. But just hearing from what you're saying, it doesn't look like that's happening. That's okay. Yeah, I don't know. With the starters sitting out, and we'll talk about the matchup in a few moments, but how do you think your backup quarterback will look? Or, how do you think those two will do?
Well, for one, I feel like our starters are going to play a couple of series because we do have a new offensive coordinator. We do have a new defensive coordinator. So they're going to want to see. I'm almost 1,000% sure our defensive starters are going to play some series. Kellen Moore kind of left it up to question whether the offensive players were going to be playing a little bit or not. But I know the defensive starters are going to be playing a little bit. Yeah. Offensively, honestly, I don't know. We have a lot of question marks when it comes to deep down, because if AJ and Devontae and the big boys ain't playing, I don't know how easy it's going to be for the backup quarterbacks to look good. But they're going to be going up against second and third string with the Ravens. But the quarterback position, honestly, that's not even really the position I'm looking at because, I mean, obviously we know is Jalen Hurts. Like, they're really just fighting for quarterback 2 at that point. And Lord help us, the creek don't rise. We would never have to see quarterback.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, our quarterback situation, I know some Ravens fans might get on me for this one, but I want Snoop back. I want Snoop back. Bring him back. Let them cut him. And then Ravens need to go after and get him because our backups, Josh, Devin Leary, he might, I mean, we just drafted him. He might even be competing for that second, QB2 spot. But I mean, as it stands right now, I think QB2 is Josh. And I'm just like, ooh, he's just not been looking great in training camp. So we'll see. Speaking of your rookies, so talk to me about a couple of the rookies who have really come in, made a name for themselves so far this offseason.
Number one, first and foremost, our first round pick, Quinyon Mitchell. Yep. Quinyon, we had the number 22 overall pick. We thought Quinyon we was going to have to trade up to get Quinyon, but he ended up being at 22. Those cornerbacks, they just weren't taken as early this year, so that was working in our favor. Quinyon has came right in and just been stealing the show, as he should, as a number one pick. Our secondary was the worst part of our team last season, and we went around this season and invested heavily in the secondary, mainly in the draft. So it's just so good to see a position that is going from worst is going back to first on our team. Quinyon just been amazing. He's going up against AJ Brown. He's going up against Devontae Smith every day in camp. And those guys are giving them their all. And he's just been a dog. And he's versatile too. We have some competition at corner. Like I said, worst to first. So in the best way possible, we have so many dogs at corner that it makes it hard to who will be on the floor. But Quinyon's versatile too. So he's been getting some snaps in the slot as well as the outside. He hasn't played in the slot before, but he's showing off his versatility. So when it comes to rookies, Quinyon is just stealing the show. Johnny as well. Johnny Wilson was a 6th round pick, a wide receiver out of Florida State, really tall, like 6'7",
Hmm.
6'8", built like a tight end, and a lot of us thought that he might be moved to tight end.
Hmm.
And when we started the offseason, it was Paris Campbell, who we got from the Giants, spent time with the Giants, spent time with the Colts. It was his spot to lose. Wide receiver 3 was Paris Campbell's spot to lose. We drafted a wide receiver with the 5th round pick and with the 6th round pick, and we just assumed it was going to be Paris Campbell and then them boys behind him. But Johnny Wilson has came in, and just in like the last week, like Johnny Wilson has been going off. He's been going crazy. So that's like the biggest thing to watch for us in the Ravens game tomorrow is just like what he can do in an actual game scenario because he is so big. So just what kind of mixed matches he can create. The biggest knock on him coming out of college was him not using his body and frame as much as he could. But that hasn't been the case at camp. So it's just fun to see him tomorrow. But I think Quinyon is doing what he's supposed to do as like just, 1st round pick, just acting like a 1st round pick. But Johnny Wilson being a 6th round pick has definitely been a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. We have a cornerback, Nate Wiggins, and we drafted him 1st round out of Clemson, and I tell you what, he's been on fire. He's been no fly zone. You're not getting past Nate Wiggins. So I'm very interested to watch him and see how he matches up with with some of your talent on offense. But we also have, I mentioned Roger Rosengarten earlier. This is one who we're hearing really good things about. He's learning. And to me, Roger Rosengarten, because we don't have a lot of variety and we don't have a lot to choose from in terms of this has to work out, this better work out, because we don't really have a lot else, we don't have a lot of depth, in terms of our O-line. Roger Rosengarten, he has to work. So I'm looking to see how he does tomorrow. There are a couple of other ones who have come in terms of rookies. You got Tez Walker. He's been doing really good, holding his own at wide receiver. You have TJ Tampa, also another cornerback we drafted. Ravens tend to have a very scary secondary. That's the best way I can describe our defense, in terms of our secondary. They have not really, as long as I've been a Ravens fan, they've not ever been shy on making sure that there was plenty of depth at the various positions on defense. That's never been a question. It's never been an issue. And if someone goes down, they have a plan. They seemingly have a plan in place, and they can bring someone in at the last minute. Like I mentioned last year, off season, right after training camp, and even into the start of the season, we brought in 2 older, I'm going to call them older, how about seasoned? We brought in 2 seasoned in Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy, and those ended up being 2 of our premier edge rushers. And people said, oh, they're washed, they're old, they don't have anything left in the tank. But that was untrue. So, but in terms of the rookies, we need to see. Another one who I'm keeping my eye on for us now, especially because our center, Tyler Linderbaum, we just heard this week, is dealing with a soft tissue injury. Could be something that just is a minor thing and he'll be ready to go in a couple of weeks, or it could be something that, lingers for a little bit. In any event, that brings next man up. That brings Nick Samick. We drafted him this year. And so, we out of Michigan State, he's got to perform. So I'm looking to see him and see how he does, because in the event, week 1, we need to rely on Nick. I want to know how he's going to hold his own. So those are a couple of names that I think, and another, there's several, there's Adiza Isaac. He's been doing great. There's a battle, I think, with Sanusi Kane and Bo Braid at safety. We'll talk about that in a little bit when we discuss, previewing the matchup. But in terms of the rookies that you just mentioned who've come in and have done really well so far this offseason, who do you think has a shot really to make the 53-man roster?
I feel like majority of our rookies, all of our rookies should make the 53-man. We really don't. If we draft somebody, at least that first season, they're gonna make the roster. Like, they have a hard time letting go of draft picks, which has been an issue for us in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But all of our draft picks this season, they've been really solid. All of our picks have been really good. I can't see us not having a pick make the roster. We got 2 linemen late. in the draft, Trevor Keegan out of Michigan and Dylan McMahon out of NC State. Maybe those two could have a issue making the roster, might end up on the practice squad. But all the main pieces, um, 6th round and up, should end up making the 53 man.
Yeah, I think pretty much the same thing with the Ravens. I'd be shocked. I mean, a couple of guys might make practice squad, like you said. It might be two, three of them that end up on practice squad just because we have depth at their respective positions. But other than that, I think the majority of them are gonna, have a really good chance of making the 53. Overall, how would you grade the Eagles off season? The transactions, the moves that they make. Were you pleased or were you displeased?
I was very happy. I hate to sound, they hate us Eagles fans. They call us cocky, arrogant, whatever they call us. I hate to sound like whatever the cliche is.
It's okay.
But in my opinion, we AAA, AAA plus, not even on the chart, because we had an abysmal season last season. We had a historical collapse and we still made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, we had one of the most laughable seasons. We had the worst season. Our secondary was buns. We was turning the ball over left and right. We couldn't tackle, and we still made the playoffs. And we still won 10 plus games. That's at our very, 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 very worst. We still making the playoffs. So this offseason, we fixed every single thing. Like, I know the media wants everybody to focus on Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Are they getting along? Yada, 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 yada. To distract the whole NFL from the fact that we fixed all of our issues. So we're going to shock everybody, because I think what everybody expects to happen this season is we run out on the field and Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are boxing at midfield, and that's it. Like, no. They want y'all to focus on that because they want to distract y'all from the fact that we re-upped. Like, this roster is insane. We upgraded everything. Like, our two biggest issues last season was rookie and inexperienced play callers. Our defensive play caller had never called plays before last season. Our offensive play caller had never called plays before last season. We brought in 2 experienced play callers, 2 respectable play callers, a defensive play caller that has had top defenses in the league, an offensive play caller that has had top offenses in the league. So check. Our second biggest issue was our secondary being buns. We spent our first 2 picks on corners. Cooper DeJean, who was expected to be a first-round pick, can play safety, can play corner. Quinyon Mitchell, at corner. We go and bring CJ Gardner-Johnson back. CJ Gardner-Johnson, when we went on our Super Bowl run, CJ Gardner-Johnson was the heart and soul of our defense. He was the heart and soul of our secondary. He probably he had like 5 interceptions or 6 interceptions as safety for us on that Super Bowl season. We go and bring CJ Gardner-Johnson back. So we address that defense, we address that secondary, and now we have more dogs than we have slots that they can fill up in the secondary. James Bradbury is going from starter to probably not even going to make the roster unless we being nice. Then he can make the roster and sit. But yeah, like we didn't even have to upgrade running back, and we did. We swapped out DeAndre Swift, who was great. I love DeAndre Swift, but he's not that heavy hitter like Saquon is. Like, Saquon can block. Saquon can be effective in the pass game. Saquon is a red zone threat, a short yardage threat, so strong. Like, the way he's going to take the pressure off Jalen Hurts. Upgraded running back 2 with Will Shipley out of Clemson. Like, our running back 2 last season, a lot of those fumbles, a lot of those turnovers, a lot of those stops was because Kenny Gainwell just wasn't doing it. We go and get Will Shipley out of Clemson to upgrade that as well. Wide receiver 3, like, massive upgrade. Like, that was a position for the last 4 years that has hindered us. Like, Super Bowl loss that we just lost, there was some catches that wide receiver 3 wasn't catching. So for us to upgrade the wide receiver 3, like, that is a very underrated upgrade for us, because everybody knows AJ. Everybody knows Devontae, but you're only as good as your wide receiver 3 because you're going to have to call on him. Upgraded that position. Jalen Hurts is fully healthy. I don't know if y'all have seen the tape. I don't know if y'all have seen the film. The knee is fully healed. He's faster than he was during his MVP season. We don't track training camp stats. I don't do that because, I'll be clowning other teams. I keep it fair, you know what I'm saying? I was clowning other quarterback in the NFC East where they be tracking his stats. But Jalen Hurts is healthy again. Healthy and happy. Jalen Hurts had a heck of an offseason run. Public sightings with Bay. Shooting commercials with Tiana Taylor. Jordan Brand fitted him out. He on stage with Frankie Beverly. You know what I'm saying? At the NCAA Final Four, living his best life, and he healthy. So, like I said, I'm not saying we gonna win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying go place your bets now. But what I'm saying is we're back. We are back. So I hope everybody had y'all fun talking all y'all trash. I hope y'all had fun talking trash last season. I hope y'all had fun talking trash this offseason, baby, because we are back. That's why. And then especially since the NFC East is imploding, like Dallas got all their little drama. Like,
that was another question I have. Who's taking your division? But yeah, you answered like 2 or 3 more questions that I was going to ask you. Like, what are your biggest weaknesses? And you answered it. So I thank you. Yes, that's good. That's good. That's good. I can say that we feel, at least for me, I feel the exact same way that you do in terms of your team. We had a horrendous ending to our season last year. Whatever word you want to put on it, we can. Embarrassing, terrible, just horrible, whatever word you want to attach, we'll take it. And like you said, I hope those who are out there who've talked noise about the Ravens, I hope you had your fun, enjoy your time, but we're back. And the same way that you addressed your needs in terms of bringing in players to help build your roster, we did the same thing. We drafted, not this offseason, but the year before, we drafted Zay Flowers, who is our number 1 wide receiver. And the connection between he and Lamar was instantaneously palpable. It was noticeable. Now we're expecting him going into his second year to take that leap, to take that next step. And you do that, not only do you have him, but you also have some familiar faces that you're bringing back who, he's comfortable with, that Lamar is comfortable with. But more importantly, we learned last year that our tight end room would not suffer, because it didn't suffer when Mark Andrews went down. We didn't put on full display what Isaiah Likely could do. And it wasn't until Mark Andrews got injured that we really saw what we have and who we have in Isaiah Likely. Now you bring in a 2 tight end set. Now you play that. These offenses, the different schemes of our offense, because we have so many weapons, not to mention Derrick Henry, not to mention the King in the backfield. That's going to, and even if our O-line isn't exactly what we want it to be right off the bat, because it's going to be, there's a learning curve. There's going to be some growing pains. It might take a week. It might take a couple weeks. It might take a few. But while the offensive line is gelling and rounding into form, you utilize Derrick Henry to take some of that pressure off of the O-line if they're not in sync, if they're not in balance. So you effectuate the run game. You take your tight ends, those short intermediate passes. You do whatever works and whatever is successful. So the same way that you feel about the Eagles, I feel the exact same way about my Baltimore Ravens. We're coming back. We don't like how we ended last year, but that's okay. We're going to turn the page.
We was all rooting for y'all.
Oh, wow. That's so nice to hear. That's so good to hear, because it just seems like when I talk to people, and different content creators for different teams, it's what I hear the most is, Lamar Jackson fumbled this and he dropped the ball here. He didn't do this, that, and the third. And I'm like, wait, did you not watch the same AFC Championship game that I watched? I mean, if you
wanted y'all to win, obviously I wanted the Chiefs to lose. We all wanted y'all to win.
That's so nice.
Even my mom was rooting for y'all. She's doing
it. Yeah. No, I mean, nobody wants the Chiefs to lose, I don't think, more so than the Ravens fan base right now, because of how things went down last year. And honestly speaking, we were the better team. We were. We really were. We
Y'all were.
deviated from we deviated from what was working and what had worked for us up until that point, and it showed. So, you know, like you said, have your fun now. Enjoy your time. Whoever's out there and has things to say about the Ravens, go ahead, knock yourself out, have a blast. But we're gonna hush your mouth pretty soon. We're gonna hush your mouth pretty soon because we're coming back and we're coming back for it all this year. So that's kind of what my mindset is, for us. For the Ravens, now let's preview the matchup. For the Ravens, we generally don't play a lot of our starters, or if we do put them out there, it's on a rotational basis. They're not going to play the whole game. And you mentioned the same thing with Philly. You'll play some of your starters, especially on defense. You need to see what you have out there, and you might do the same thing on offense as well. What position group do you think will be the most impactful on offense in the preseason game tomorrow?
Oh, good question. Most impactful as in perform the best, or
Yeah.
we're going to be looking out for the most?
Most impactful in terms of what position group is going to come out on that field tomorrow night and say, all the practice that we've had, we're ready.
Well, if it's the starters, obviously our wide receivers, and Jalen Hurts is the stars of the show. But the starters aren't. If we're talking about the starters, then obviously Jalen Hurts and the wide receivers. But if we're talking about non-starters, probably wide receivers still, because we added a lot. Like I said, we added Paris Campbell. We drafted 2 rookies. We got John Ross, grabbed him out of retirement. He's supposedly been doing fine, probably a wide receiver 5, maybe. But I feel like our wide receiver room has a lot of depth. So if we're talking non-starters, I feel like the wide receiver room should show something tomorrow.
I think on offense for us, I don't know that they're going to be the most impactful, which was my original question. Certainly, I don't think it's going to be our quarterback, our backup quarterbacks. We've already ruled out that Lamar Jackson's not playing tomorrow. So I don't think it's going to be our quarterback. So then that brings us to the O-line. As I said earlier, that's a question mark. And after tomorrow night's game, I'll have a little bit of better assessment of where I think our O-line is, what direction we need to go. But just, because what you hear in training camp is, oh, everybody's doing great. They're learning, they're growing, they're improving every day. And they're going up and they're playing against their own team. Now you're going to play some unfamiliar faces. You're going to play some, you're going up against something that's not familiar to you. How do you respond? So, but for us, I think no matter what you do on tight end, that's where I think we shine. The Ravens tight end room is on offense, hands down. No matter who we put out there tomorrow, it doesn't matter. I think they're going to be, have a huge impact on the game. So wide receivers too, I think we're going to see some good things coming out of our wide receiver room. But I think mostly, and I don't know if Derrick Henry is going to play. I wouldn't expect him to, but you just never know. But it's more of a battle between our rookies and those who are trying to fight for their roster spot. So my focus tomorrow is the offensive line. I want to see that. I'm paying attention. I'm gonna get my notebook out. I'm gonna have my little notepad. I'm gonna do my little check-in after the game and let people know my thoughts. But same question on defense, Symone. Who do you think, what position group is going to come out on that field tomorrow for the Eagles and say, we're ready?
Definitely the DBs. Like I said, the defensive back room is deep. Like, we are deep at defensive back. And we have in a good way, we have too many guys. So everybody is going to be fighting. Darius Slay is the presumed cornerback 1. But we have 3 guys still that could be a cornerback 2. We're going into preseason, there's 3 guys. We got Isaiah Rodgers, we got Quinyon Mitchell, and we have Keely Ringo, who we drafted last season. We have 3 guys that could start at cornerback 2, which is amazing when you look at last season and how we was giving up 50 million passing yards a game. But the DBs, the cornerbacks, they're gonna be on fire tomorrow because everybody got something to prove. Everybody's coming after that spot. We have a lot of dogs at corner. Like we have so many guys. So that's gonna be the position where I feel like it's gonna be popping. I'm gonna have my eye on the most. Like I know we good at corner. Like we good. Like I said, they just fighting for that spot. I want to see what we get at linebacker though. So like what's gonna be the most intriguing to me is linebacker because that's where we need somebody. Like we know we got dogs at corner. We know we got dogs on the D line. We know we got dogs at safety. Who gonna be a dog at linebacker? So that's where I'm looking at the most.
Yeah. For me, it's our, secondary. As I told you earlier, we have a very scary secondary. And it doesn't matter who we put out on that field. I think our DBs are incredibly capable of changing the trajectory of the game, turning the tide at any moment. That's just how good and how confident I am in our secondary. What I'm watching for tomorrow, I'm watching for the linebacker position. I want to see how, as I mentioned earlier, Trenton Simpson and Tavius Robinson, I want to see how they do. I want to see how they perform because their number is going to be called a lot more this year in the absence of the players that I mentioned earlier who left. So now I want to see it's their time. And of course, we have our rookies are going to be out there fighting for their spots as well and trying to make a name for themselves too. So I'm interested to see them. But for me, I'm really watching the linebacker position. That's what has my attention on defense for us tomorrow. What position battle among the backups are you most excited to watch tomorrow?
Like I said, I feel like linebacker, because like I said, the linebacker is our biggest question mark. So that's where a lot of eyes are going to be for us, like seeing who's giving starter, who's giving practice squad. Do we need to go back on that little NFL wire and find a free agent to come on up here? So I feel like linebacker is definitely going to be the battles that we're going to be looking out for because Devin White is a presumed starter, but who's starting beside him? Questions.
Yeah. I'm looking for, I'm looking to see who matches up with, matches up against Tez Walker. I want to see who you all put against Nate Wiggins, who he's matching up against. I want to see that battle. That's what I want to see. Because from everything I'm hearing about Nate Wiggins, he is that dog. Just like you said, you got some dog. We got some dogs too. And from all accounts of what we've seen, what we've heard this offseason, Nate Wiggins came in with that attitude that, listen, I am the best corner. It's me. You got the right one. And I want to see, does that translate now over to the field in terms of real game, real time, real speed? Is he going to be able to hold up? I think he is. So, those are, and I'm also looking for, and this kind of goes into what I said earlier, our offensive line. I want to see that. I want to know how our O-line matches up against your D-line, against your edge rushers. That's what I want to know. Can they stand their ground? Can they hold their own? So those are kind of my focus points in terms of matchups for tomorrow. Hendo from the Rogue Pod, thank you for joining. He said if Devin White is healthy, he's going to be a problem. If he's healthy. So, we have the same thing. We have, Ojabo, David Ojabo. He's supposed to be our premier edge rusher if he can stay healthy. I anticipate him playing tomorrow. I do. And that's kind of what, I'm looking for. But no, I can't agree with you, Big Magic. Eagles don't suck. I can't say that. I'm interested to see how I know. I'm interested to see. And we play them, and Big Magic, we play them in, not only the postseason, but we'll see them again come the regular season. So we'll see how so we'll see. Final thoughts on this matchup. Final thoughts on tomorrow's game. Who wins?
Honestly, I don't even know. I don't even remember who ever wins these games. I think we lost last season. I don't think we won a single preseason game last season. I don't think so. But I'm gonna say we gonna win because duh, it's us. But
Okay.
like I said, I don't know. Y'all not playing any starters. We'll probably play the starters, like I said, for 2 series,
Yeah.
maybe 3. So it's just a battle of the backups, battle of the tryouts. So we gonna see. But I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm interested to see what Johnny Wilson looks like. Um, guys battling it out for cornerback 2. Can't wait to see them go after it. Some of our other rookies want to see what they look like. If we get that Jalen Hurts Saquon series for the first time, that first handoff, I think that's going to be exciting. But yeah, I think our offensive starters, I highly doubt if they play that much. Like I said, the defense has a lot more new pieces. And we have the new defensive coordinator and a lot of new pieces. So I think the defense might see a little bit more action than the offense. We have a lot of continuity. I mean, we added Saquon, but outside of Saquon, we still have our main core who has a lot of chemistry together. So I don't know how much we're going to see of the offense. But I'm excited to see the cornerbacks battle it out. I'm excited to see these linebackers get after it. So I'm ready. Finally going to see the team back out on the field.
Yes, indeed. I'm ready. Let's go. Um, I would say if I'm going to tell you who's going to win, the Ravens. You're coming to the bank tomorrow night. You're playing us at home. And one thing about John Harbaugh, he loves winning in the preseason. And we lost one preseason matchup last, preseason. And prior to that, we were on a long streak, I think dating all the way back to 2014, 2015, something like maybe 2016, somewhere around there. Let me know in the chat what year it was, but it was 20-some games straight that the Ravens won in the preseason. So John Harbaugh takes that seriously. Takes it very seriously. So I have the Ravens winning tomorrow. Give me your score prediction, Symone, for tomorrow night.
One thing about y'all always be in some low scoring scenarios. So I feel like with y'all low scoringness, y'all gonna bring that score down for everybody. Bring that score.
Okay.
I do feel like y'all division be having some low scoring games. Y'all games be like 6-12.
It's tough. The AFC North, I have been saying this ever since I started, this channel. AFC North is just a different brand of football. It is the hardest, toughest division out there in the NFL. This is my opinion. But yeah, when you're playing that grind out in the dirt, tete-a-tete, it's just not going to be a high scoring game. And when you take a look at the Ravens and you take a look at, our other teams in the AFC North, yeah, those are low scoring games for that reason. But what score would you give? I'll tell you mine.
I'll say 20 to 16.
Okay. Mine, 21-17 Ravens. That's kind of where I'm going with it. Yeah, I wasn't far off from you. I don't think it's going to be, and let us know in the chat, what's your score prediction? If you're watching this on replay, thank you. Leave a comment down below. Let us know who's going to win the matchup tomorrow. Don't wait till after the matchup happens and then say, who's going to win. Let us know before the matchup who you think is going to win and drop your score predictions for us. So far, we see Deshaun86 says 17-21 Ravens. That's exactly what I have. I think it's not going to be a high scoring game. Nope, I don't think it will be. But I do think that last year it was last offseason we lost against the Commanders. So we lost against somebody in your division. Speaking of divisions, who wins your division this year?
That's not even a question.
If somebody were
Giants don't count.
Yeah. But
Washington might be all right, but no. Like Washington had a heck of an offseason. Like Washington had a heck of an offseason. Like
they did.
They had a good offseason. Like,
great offseason.
I'm not sleeping on Washington. Yeah. They're gonna be honestly, Washington it's probably gonna be us in Washington versus the little boys. The little boys got way too much drama right now. Quarterback, wide receiver one, linebacker, outside linebacker, mouth of the South one, Mike Parsons. They got too much drama right now.
Yeah, way too much. I agree with you, but you know, don't. And you said it already. You're not sleeping on the Commanders. That is a
Yeah,
sleeper
I'm not
team for
sleeping on
me.
them, but they not one of these ones. They loading. But like I said, we giving something else right now. Like we giving something else. Like again, even at our worst last season, we still swept them at our worst.
Yeah,
The
because
very worst.
but they're a
Now
much
watch
better
them be
team.
better than they were, but they still ain't gonna be us. I
Yeah,
that
yeah.
ain't
I'm
happening. Yeah.
um
Dallas, who knows what they gonna have going on by the time the season started. They just got way too much drama.
the one thing I'll say about Dallas, even though they have a lot of drama, when you have that type of talent, now they just need to know what to do with it, right? But when you have that type of talent, CD Lamb is a person who is a player who, even if he didn't practice a bit this entire offseason, even if he sat on his couch and did nothing but play video games. I don't know if that man played video games, but whatever he likes to do in his spare time, even if he did that all off season, he would be one person or one player that I would not worry about. There are a couple of, handful of players like that in the league who, if they miss time, okay. If they're not there and they're not present, no problem. He's one of them. He is. So even though there is trouble in the Cowboys camp and they don't seem to know what they're doing, whether they're coming or going, what are you doing with Dak? Do you want him? Do you not? Do you want to get rid of it? What do you want to do? You don't know. Even though it seems like it's just they're kind of all over the place. That's the best way I can describe the Cowboys right now. I'm still not going to completely rule them out. So, I mean, they could end up giving the Eagles a bit of a challenge, a bit of a fit. We'll see. We'll see. Tanja says we got backups playing. Yep, we do. We our backups are going to be playing, and only maybe a handful of our starters will play, if any. And if they do, they'll be on probably limited snap counts. But you got the Ravens taking this. I wanted to see K-Walk Comedy. She's in here. She's an Eagles fan. Thank you for joining. She has the Eagles winning tomorrow night at the M&T Bank. K-Walk Comedy. Now, we'll see. I want you to make sure you come back.
Y'all be rocking it or something.
Ooh, the M&T Bank at night is something fierce. It is something fierce. So I want you to come back, K-Walk Comedy, after the game, and I want you to tell me if you were right. I just want you, I just want to hear it. You were right or you were wrong. Just let me know. You can, do it gently. And B Squared is saying he has 22-20 Ravens. Ooh, that's a little close. Now wait, I didn't have us that close, but anyway, wrap up. Final questions. Just a couple final questions. If you had to say about your overall strategy, you said you have a new defensive coordinator. We also have a new defensive coordinator. Well, I mean, he's new to the position. He's not new to our organization, but how do you feel about the strategy and what you're seeing from him, from your new defensive coordinator, in terms of what he's going to implement for your defense?
I like it. So Josh Gannon, who was our defensive coordinator when we went to the Super Bowl in what was that 2022. He was a disciple of our defensive coordinator who we have now. So it's gonna be pretty similar to what we saw in 2022. Like Gannon was pretty much trying to replicate what he's seen and what he's learned from Vic Fangio. We had obviously a top-notch defense. We was top. We almost broke the sack record. Turnover. We was creating turnovers, shutting folks down, breaking all kinds of records, and our DBs just look so good in that Vic Fangio scheme. And it's just going to be so good to get back to that. Like I said, we brought CD Lamb back, who's familiar with that defense. Darius Slay, who's still here, having familiarity with that defense, and then bringing in some real dogs at corner with Isaiah Rodgers, with Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo, we drafted last year from UGA, but he's just taken such a big step this offseason. And then Quinyon Mitchell, who we drafted. So we got those right guys in place. Also, last season, we didn't hire our defensive coordinator until after the draft. So he wasn't able to draft or sign free agents that fit his scheme. We got a deal done with Vic Fangio instantly. So Vic was able to go in the draft and find those defensive ends and find those linebackers and find those guys that fit his scheme and during free agency. So I'm super excited. Like I said, last season was a fall off when it came to pressures. It was a fall off when it came to the sacks. Like, we got to get back to that this season. That's going to be exciting. Offensive wise, just having a competent offense, really running the ball. Like, we had DeAndre Swift and we really neglected him. Like, we didn't use him as we should. That's why he was so quick to walk away. We have a weapon in Saquon Barkley. We have to unload that weapon. We have to release that weapon. Also, when it comes to Jalen Hurts, obviously Jalen Hurts was hurt last season, so we didn't get a lot of those explosiveness. Those are big plays that we've seen from Jalen Hurts in 2022, his MVP season. But he's back healthy, and Kellen Moore is going to be using him as well. Just because we got Saquon doesn't mean we're not still going to be using Jalen Hurts. And like, Jalen Hurts' mobility, as y'all know, with Lamar Jackson, it adds so much to his game. Like, if you limit his mobility, if you limit that, it just limits so much of his game. And we've seen so many design runs still at training camp. So we're going to still expect Jalen Hurts to be a Weapon X.
Okay. Well said. Well said. I will say this about the Ravens. I asked a few moments ago who's winning the division. Let us know in the chat who's winning the division. NFC East, who's winning? Who takes that division? And and same thing, who wins the AFC North? I'm going to speak on the AFC North. Ravens are winning that division, hands down. Okay, maybe not hands down, because I think, Pittsburgh, they improved their quarterback situation, which was questionable at best. That's what I said about Kenny Pickett. But, they fortified their O-line. They've been working on that for a few years. TJ Watt is still there, and he's always a problem. But, and I was also with the Browns. If Watson can stay healthy, if he can get back to a version of himself, before his injury or a few seasons ago, that's a team to watch. They've got one of the best, or if not the best, defense in the league. But I don't care how they stack up. The Ravens are taking it. And one team, that I've always got my watchful eye on are the Bengals, because I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. Obviously, he's not been healthy. He hasn't. And health has been his downfall. But from all accounts, what I'm hearing right now about Joe Burrow, he is healthy. And if he's healthy, I know they lost Tyler Boyd, but they still have Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins. So they're still a very viable threat. All in all, That said, I'm taking my Ravens. Why? Because we have Lamar Jackson. It doesn't matter who you have. You don't have him on your team, so I'm taking my squad. Plus, again, our defense, one of the best in the league. And although we do have a new defensive coordinator, he's not new to the Baltimore Ravens organization. He played for the Ravens. He's been in the Ravens. He grew up in the Ravens, so he knows the mentality. We had last year Mike McDonald, a very cerebral, just mind, someone who really understands, studies the game, made that colossal mistake 2 seasons ago against the Miami Dolphins, bounced back, learned from it, and never looked back. And so now we have our defensive coordinator who sat under him. Zach Orr now gets to hopefully bring in some of those same strategies, same techniques, same, defensive schemes that worked for us last year under Mike McDonald. But this year, he gets to bring his own sauce to it. He gets to put his own stamp on this defense. So I'm looking forward to it. So again, I say, my Ravens, we're taking the AFC North. That's it. No questions asked. I see we have joining with us. Thank you so much, Nana. Thank you for being here. And Deshaun said first half is going to be a field goal game. It could be tomorrow night. Could be. It could be. But I'm a little bit more optimistic about it. I think we're going to see some points go on the board. But you're right. It might be in the second half that we actually see that happening. Rave H, she's taking the Ravens. I am too. All day. That's right. And twice on Sunday. Don't sleep on the backup quarterback. I mean, he's a vet. Yeah, I talked about this earlier, Deshaun. Our backup quarterback is a question mark for me. Although Josh is a veteran, I just haven't liked what I've seen and what I've heard from him in training camp. That's not to say we won't see something different tomorrow night, but for me, okay. I want Snoop back. I said that earlier. I'm going to say it again. I want Snoop. I'll take him over Josh any day. Big Magic said Eagles are winning that division. I agree. I think the Eagles are going to win. I think you're going to win the division. So It's gonna be, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun season. I'm excited for it. But before we go, I have a quick thank you that I want to share with you. Thank you, Symone, for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I want to share a word of thanks with you.
Symone, a huge thank you for joining the live stream. Your insights and perspectives as an Eagles fan were incredibly valuable, and I know our listeners appreciated hearing from a different point of view. It's always a pleasure to have knowledgeable and passionate fans like yourself on the show. I look forward to having you on again in the future. Until then, best of luck to the Eagles, except of course, when they play my Ravens.
You know it. Yes, you know it. Thank you, Symone, so much for joining the show tonight. It was a pleasure talking football with you and previewing this matchup and just learning a little bit more about where your team stands heading into this preseason. Would you please tell everyone where they can find you, what you have going on social media?
Yes, y'all can find me on YouTube, Symone, Symone with the sports, TikTok, Symone with the sports, and Twitter, Symone_Stanley.
All right, you heard it here first. Keep a watchful eye on Symone and all that she's doing on social media. Listen, we got to know what's going on with these Eagles because who knows? It might be a Super Bowl matchup for the ages when you have, the Ravens taking on the Eagles. You never know. Make sure you follow her. Go over, subscribe to her channel. Show her some Ravens love. I appreciate it. Symone, again, thank you so much for being here with us. I enjoyed this. Hopefully, we'll see you back soon. I wish the best to your Eagles, except like the man said, when they play my Ravens. Well, that's it for tonight. Of course. So that is it for tonight. Thank you all so much for joining and watching the show. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you are new, welcome. Hit the subscribe button. We will see you all very soon. Until next time, you take care, stay safe, and as always, go Ravens.